Morning.
Morning.
What's your name?
My name's Inthia.
Inthia.
Yeah, people call me Bubble.
Okay, so Bubble.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, my man.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm 32. Currently living in a homeless Salvation Army hostel. I'm a hard drug user. By hard drugs I mean Class A's, crack and heroin. I've been using drugs for a long time, as long as I can remember, but these drugs for about 3-4 years.
How long have you been homeless for?
So I was street homeless for 3 years before I went to prison last year in November. And yeah, when I came out, until November I was in prison, and I did a 6-month sentence and came out and was housed in a hostel, a homeless hostel. So 3 years, then prison, and now a homeless hostel, and it's been like that for about 6 months.
What was the sentence for?
Fraud.
Okay, so
Fraud, yeah.
sort of fraud.
You know, I was a homeless guy who was just like opportunist. Someone came up to me and was like, can we use your bank account? Put some money into your account, you take out the cash, we give you a little bit. And obviously I was just like, £100, £200, easy money. But it caught up with me, and I got caught doing it. I got 6 months in prison, which is pretty harsh I thought, but hey.
How was your childhood like, just growing up? Did you have brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I got 2 brothers, 2 sisters. 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm the youngest of 5. Bengali Muslim household, and pretty typical. Parents quite religious. A bit of a muddle up between culture and religion at home. You know, like parents would say don't do things because God doesn't like it, but actually it was just a cultural thing. And often it was a kind of like don't question sort of attitude. And having older brothers and sisters, it was like having extra sets of parents really. But it was I guess it was a loving household. Every household has its stripes and nothing's perfect. But I left home quite young, like kind of didn't get along with family, didn't get along with mum and dad, and was a bit stubborn and just left. Yeah.
Did you still have a relationship with them?
Well, yeah, my father's passed on, and you know, ironically, my relationship with him is probably better now than it ever has been.
He's dead.
No, he's dead. Yeah, it's a pretty dark joke, but it's true. I think I appreciate him more now that he's not around, and I appreciate aspects of who he was as a man, and a father, and a husband that I didn't appreciate when he was here.
And your school years, so obviously you went to school.
Got kicked out of every school I went to. It's a pretty like typical homeless drug addict story, isn't it? Like got kicked out of every school, got kicked out of like 4 colleges, got kicked out of 2 universities. Just not at all respectful for authority or institutions.
Was you a good student though?
Yeah, I was okay. I mean, like I didn't have a problem with the academic side of things,
Okay.
you know. Like, A's, B's, but just not very attentive.
So, secondary school, did you go to university?
Yeah, I went to uni after I went to Durham Uni. I got into a relationship when I was 17 and just followed this girl up to the uni she went to. It was almost like if I put my mind to it, I'd do it. So I just called up the university. I didn't even have A-levels. I called up the uni and I was just like, yeah, I've got 2 A's and a B. They're like, yeah, come up for an interview. Turned up, did the UCAS thing, made a load of bullshit up on there. Met up with the head of department, blagged him hard with some... I've always loved reading. So when it comes to talking, I'll just... and this guy was like, yeah, you've got an unconditional offer. So I went there. First year it was really apparent that I was not like academic because my attendance was shit, and my social skills were a bit, and still are to an extent, like awkward. And I got asked to leave on mental health grounds. They're like, look, we're going to defer your year.
Mental health grounds?
Yeah, I guess my addiction kind of manifested itself in the form of alcoholism. Like I drank more, longer, harder than everyone else. And where at uni, usually you'd say you could just hide that. I couldn't hide that. I wasn't some sort of binge alcoholic drinker that was kind of slipping under the radar. It was quite clear to everyone that I was a mess, you know.
So after uni, what did you get into?
I worked street fundraiser, which suited my way of life, being out on the street, talking to people, being able to like just sneak off and do what I want, come back, pretty loose on the kind of the rules and regs, because you're to yourself, so even if there are rules and regulations, you don't necessarily have to follow them. You can just like do what I've got to do, as long as I was hitting the results, getting those direct debits, getting those numbers, getting those donations, which I was doing. So they were just like, yeah. And then I was still in that relationship from the age of 17, so by my mid-20s, early 20s, coming up to my mid-20s, I decided I'm going to go back to uni again. So I went to art school, but again got kicked out. Again, mental health grounds, again deferred my year. Again, drugs and alcohol. Look, you've got issues, sort them out, come back to us. Me being a bit like, okay. Moved to Brussels, worked there for a year and a half. Again, drinking. I was working as a consultant. Consultancy, financial services, like representing a conglomerate of hedge funds, an association of hedge funds, but like financial services.
Decent money.
Good money, like had enough money, living in a really lovely part of the world.
How much would that be then? If you say decent money, how much were you earning?
Like hitting 6 digits.
Nice.
Over. But in Brussels, tax is 60% tax.
40%.
Yeah. So yeah, it was still good living. Because we work like that kind of job, a lot of stuff you pay for through lunches, food. It's weird how when you're in a certain world where you're earning enough money, it's almost like you don't need to spend that money you're earning. You hit this point where it's like, hey, we're earning so much money, we don't need you to spend it. We'll pay for everything anyway, you know. That celebrity life, that kind of financial services, banking, it's gratuitous. And everything in between, everything in the lower echelons is like, right, you have to pay to prove. You have to pay to prove yourself. You know, if you're ever a nurse, a teacher, a doctor, you've got to pay to prove yourself. I guess that grinds me about society, being a productive member of society. What is that? Look, my girlfriend at the time, she was just like, I don't like you being out there. You know? So I left the job, I came back over here, and the relationship kind of continued on. But I'm an addict, and quite frankly, nothing comes before that. Like I'm selfish to the core. I was even now I can admit that, which I guess is the first selfless thing I can do, is admit that I'm a selfish bastard. But back then I didn't even admit it. It was I'm blind.
Back then as well.
I've always been an addict. Like always been. I don't think being an addict means always taking compulsion, just like compulsive. If it makes me feel a certain way, I will compulsively do it. If I don't want to feel something, I'll find something to stop me feeling that way. You know, it's like, for me, an addict is that classic definition of having a mental preoccupation with a physical compulsion. So when I'm not doing it, I'm thinking about doing it.
So how did the drug stuff start then? After that?
I mean, when I was 13, I smoked weed, and that's where the drug stuff started. And it's like the typical escalation, you know, drugs, party drugs, social drugs, recreational drugs. And it was when I came out of the relationship with that girl when I was 25, woman I should say, I hit hard drugs.
You just wanted it?
Well, because I was drinking, and I was drinking more than everyone, I was snorting more cocaine than everyone, I was hurting myself, I was ending up alone on the streets, I was ending up away from everyone, and eventually I found myself in a doorway, you know, not for the first time, but one particular time I find myself in a doorway, and you see it enough, and you sit in a barber shop long enough, you get your hair cut, but you know, you see someone putting something to their lips, you see someone doing something a certain way, and you think, right, they look like they're where I want to be, which is oblivion.
Do you remember that first hit?
It's weird because first time I did opium, I wasn't in this country, and I remember that really clearly, and it was nothing like doing heroin over here. But the first time I did like the street drugs over here, aside from it being recreational, if at 20 is when I first smoked crack, and it was like it was like experimental. It wasn't I want to kill myself from using drugs type thing. The first time I used crack and heroin together as that kind of that stereotypical that you know it as, I loved it. I really did, and I very quickly went to the needle. Really quickly went to the pin.
Yeah. So, do you have any scars?
Yeah, I've got some scars, man. Like, my arms are kind of the trap marks there. It's kind of there. I mean, healed up. Like, I went to rehab for it. Tried to get tattoos to cover them up, like. But yeah.
To rehab.
I've been to rehab a few times, my friend. Yeah.
How was that
I
then?
lived in South Africa for about 10 months, getting clean, and it was probably the best time of my life. First time in my life that I was actually sober as an adult, to be clean and sober as an adult at the age of 27, 28, when you realise, hold on, I've never been clear-minded in my life before. As an adult, turned around and chosen to be completely clear, have complete clarity, being scared and frightened of everything and everyone around you, and at the same time just feeling excited by everything.
So being sober actually scares you?
Oh man, when I am sober, it is the scariest shit in my life. Like I can't do anything. I become a child, at least has some sense of basic instinct towards, if I touch fire once, I'll burn myself, don't touch it again. I'm like worse than a child. I'm like, I might burn my hand in that fire, but I'll just keep doing it belligerently. That's how I become. Yeah. I didn't know you'd done 23 years.
Yeah, all in this was pretty honest. I've just done it.
18 and a half.
Yeah.
In one go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, all you lot said quiet video was seen from yesterday. I wouldn't want to touch change, but yeah, you've done all in. None of them wrong either. And the other not.